Welcome back, everyone. Thank you for joining me today. I have a very special episode today. Over the last few months, I have been calling out South Florida audiophiles. And when I say South Florida, I mean from West Palm Beach south. Not in Sarasota, not in Tampa. I know you all got some serious audiophiles up there. I'm talking West Palm all the way down to Key West, okay? I don't see many audiophiles. I don't know of any audiophiles. I made a live stream not long ago calling out and asking for anyone that wanted to showcase their system on my channel to raise their hand. So that brings me to Mitch here in Western Florida. He reached out to me. He's a longtime follower of mine. And today we have the honor of being here in his room. And he's going to walk us through his journey, what he's had, what he currently owns, of course, pain points if he wants to share some of those. So, Mitch, welcome to the channel. Thank you for being with me.
Thank you very much
today. So, tell us a little bit about your journey. How long have you been doing this for?
Yeah, I started in the early '90s. I had just gotten divorced, which let me have a chance to get away from the wife factor, so to speak.
Okay.
And allow me to buy some equipment that I couldn't previously get because of she didn't want it around the house or for whatever reason. So I started out back then with a Bose 601 speakers with a Kyocera integrated amplifier.
Right.
Which would have been back then. Kyocera, you may know now, is a company that makes printers and electronic components for other OEMs. And they made a nice little integrated amp, and the sound was decent, but not where I wanted to be. So that led me to the beginning of my journey to find other components. The next step up was a pair of Vandersteen 2 speakers, along with the Kyocera integrated. And by the way, I still have those Vandersteens and used in another room.
Okay, yeah. He's got different rooms in here. I'm going to show them real quick before the end of the video. So tune in and watch the end of the video. I'll show a couple of images of the other sections of the house that also have speakers.
Exactly. And from that point, I started getting into higher end components of various types. I mean, I've owned quite a few different things. From my first major move was getting a pair of, there used to be a company called Meadowlark. And they were a company out of the Carolinas that made a very nice speaker, beautiful finish on the cabinetry. I bought that. I traded that in for Eagleston speakers, the nines.
Eaglestone, yeah, I've heard about those. Yeah, I haven't known them, but yeah, I've heard.
From there, I went to Revell Studios.
Twos, okay. The twos are the ones.
The twos.
The twos, okay.
The new ones, yeah. And on until we get to this point. I've had Magico, by the way, Magico 85s. I traded in for the
Rockport.
For the Rockport Avior 2s that you see before you.
So tell us, so you went from Vandersteen and Revell all the way
Eggleston, all the way to the Rockport.
Okay, and you landed on Rockports because of what? What's the
reason why? I liked the Magicos a lot. They were very good, but what I liked as a comparison, I like to compare the Magicos as being a laboratory instrument versus the Rockports, which I feel are musical instruments.
Interesting. Okay.
That's the comparison that I like to use. The musicality of the Rockports seem to suit me better. It might be a room condition that's causing that, but whatever it is, it makes a little bit better to my room than the Magicos did. And the Magicos, take my word for this, they're great. These just have to be a little bit more euphonic and a lot of nuance. You get a lot of resolution, and that leads to some of the other components that allow me to get that kind of resolution. You're looking right here at the PS Audio BHK 600s. This is their new and largest model. 600 amps aside at 8 ohms, double up at 4. One thing unique about this amplifier, it has a tube input stage, which is a little bit different. It's a hybrid. It's a little bit different than most power amplifiers. So the voltage stage, which is the prime stage, consists of a tube rectifier and 2 voltage gain inputs. And of course that leads to the current stage, which is what feeds the speakers. That's being fed by the Andros Deluxe 2 power phono stage, as well as a Playback Designs SAC-D CD player And another source would be the VPI 40th anniversary direct drive turntable. If you notice no belts, this is direct drive.
No streaming, correct?
No streaming. Everything I use is physical media, just my own personal preference. I like touching, feeling.
Now, you were telling me that you are an engineer, and this is exactly why you went after this product here that you believe negates the effects of expensive cables. Essentially, you feel that that helps the
Oh,
entire.
yeah, very, very much so, particularly for source level components.
Okay.
An isolation transformer separates the input line from the load. There's no connections. It's basically a permeable mass of metal, if you can see it here. As any type of E-type or EI-type transformer uses a permeable metal insert between the windings, and then of course you've got the output, and that absorbs basically the harmonics and any spurious noise that might be on the line. And there's plenty of it. I mean, if you put an oscilloscope on here, you would see the difference between the input and output side. A good power cable tries to do that, but a cable is basically a passive device, and you're depending upon the design of the cable to try to absorb some of that stuff. Now, in Jay's case, I know he has drum tank that kind of separates. It kind of does what this does, but differently.
Right.
By converting the AC to DC and then creating the sine wave to allow you to power your unit. So it's just another methodology trying to do the same thing. This is, in my opinion, a little purer way of doing it with less componentry for less money. This is about a $1,500 piece versus a decent sized drum tank, which is quite a bit more money, and it works. But yet, this works as well. And I'm pretty happy with this. We were selling this in my company, and this line dropped out from us, so I had this left over in inventory, and I decided to put it to good use. And here we are.
Okay, Mitch. So tell me why you landed. I know a system is a collection of components that need to be synergistic. So tell me what you feel this system is doing that has led you to keep all these pieces in place.
Well, currently, the main thing I changed in the system, besides putting that isolation transformer, is when I upgraded the power amps from a Luxman, which was a very nice piece.
Which Luxman?
The M900.
900, yep, I like it, yep.
And I had the M900, it's a great piece, to be honest with you. But a little short on power, I felt. I felt the dynamics in this particular room needed more power.
M10X addresses that.
Yeah.
The Luxman M10X addresses a lot of those issues.
Very well,
Yeah,
it might have, but they were just coming out at that time. And since I knew some people at PS Audio, they contacted me to be a beta test case for this unit, and it seems to work very well. They're very well built, very substantial, 107 pounds each. And they sound very nice. I mean, really nice.
When I had the original BHK 300s, excuse me, I remember being one of the early adopters too, and I had issues with them. They were powering completely off when I was playing in any music through my Rebel Salon 2, which is a very difficult load. It's like 82, 83 efficient.
Yeah.
And so I remember having issues with them, cutting out power. I had to send them back to the factory. PS Audio, excuse me, replaced them, and then I didn't have any issues with the new amplifiers they sent me. But I do remember owning them. Never heard these, but I'm about to get to that part of this video, which is to listen to what he's built. Ultimately, of course, I am sitting in his room, completely unfamiliar to me, gear that is very unfamiliar to me. I actually don't own anything that he has here, so this is a great, different scenario environment, if you will, that will allow me to hear what someone else has built. How long has it taken you to put together?
This system, as you see, is probably a 3-year venture. Over
3 years putting this together. So
the next step, previous to the amplifiers, was changing out an esoteric K1 SAC CD player for the playback designs. And why I did that, I felt the esoterics were a little bit forward.
Okay.
And I like my sound to be back here somewhere.
Okay.
Okay.
Got it.
And I get more depth with that unit. Of Of course, it's pretty well known as being a fairly high-end unit, which it is. And because it's a SAC CD, which I like to play, and a CD player, and a DAC, I can even use it as a preamplifier direct to my power amps if I so desire. I'm very happy with it, very pleased, and as hopefully Jay will hear shortly.
Do you have any future plans? Anything you're contemplating to add to the
Yeah,
system?
I think I might try to go to, instead of a two preamplifier, I may want to go to a higher end solid state unit
Okay.
to give me a little bit more bass control.
Okay.
I think that's the one thing I hear lacking right now is I get it's a little maybe too tubey because I have a tube phono stage, a tube preamp, and a first stage on the amplifiers are also tube. So maybe it's a little too tubey. I'd like to experiment with that and just to see. So I might buy myself a gift one day, maybe a Christmas gift. What I've done when I made those stands, I'm using absorbent vibration pads underneath. You can't see them. I could show you what they look like if you like. Excuse me one second.
Okay, so these are the things that we have where?
These are underneath the speakers, the amplifier stands.
These are the,
They're used in each corner, and in the middle there's a row of these as well.
these are made out of rubber, right? Yeah.
It's a rubber, but they're a certain durometer. That's about a 60 durometer, so they absorb vibration.
Okay.
My floor is basically on joist. Therefore, the floor would have a tendency to vibrate,
Right.
transmit energy back up into the
Yes.
So this helps absorb that, and it seems to work very well.
Got it. Okay, with that said, I'm going to sit down and listen to his system and come back to you all shortly and give you my input as far as what I heard from inside the room. Okay, so I just got done listening to your system for the last 30 minutes. We had a nice listening session. Luckily, he had the system running for about an hour prior to my arrival, correct?
That's right.
So it was in great, it was hitting its stride. I actually felt it was getting better and better. We heard a combination of super audio CD and a vinyl. Now, as I mentioned earlier, he does not stream. He's strictly with actual media. He wants records. He wants physical media. He doesn't have time. He doesn't want to deal with digital, which brings me to this interesting point about streaming. Coming into this room, I had no idea what to expect, okay? I just saw a collection of components that I have never owned. Of course, I've owned the former BHK 300s, but I know this is another league now. And to be honest, I was quite surprised at how musically engaging the system is. I did not find a hint, not an ounce of shrill, glassiness, plastic feeling, brightness, fatigue, whatever you want to call it, whatever term you may want to use, I found zero. And here's what's interesting. He does have the room with some treatments, but it isn't really like a well laid out, these like completely acoustically treated room. So look at the space between the rear of the rock port and the rear wall, the wall behind it. I mean, how many feet is this? Like 5 feet?
That should be 5 feet.
At least 5 feet.
And 7 feet to the front of the baffle.
So he has the speakers really well into like a third. You said it, right? A rule of thirds. So he has them really pushed into the room. And I thought that was a phenomenal idea on your part because I heard everything happening right here. Okay, so you can hear depth, basically a three-dimensional sound. So you hear the speakers create the illusion of music behind them, then right between them, and then right in front. So 3 layers of information. Okay. I was very surprised, to be honest with you. Really well laid out. I never felt like I wanted to turn the music down. I felt like I could crank it up louder and louder, and I was waiting for the room to begin to talk to me. Basically, I was waiting for the speakers to interact with the walls to see if it created some sort of bite. Because that's what happens as you crank up the volume. Now the room begins to interact more, right, with the speakers. My only criticism, Mitch, of what you have here, okay, is the low registers, the bass, okay? I know we are on a second floor, okay, so you have limitations as far as how much weight you can put on this floor. we're having a conversation about perhaps having some REL subs or subwoofer of your
Yeah.
choice. It doesn't have to be REL. I think it can definitely add more spatial cues. It can add more body throughout the frequency range.
I'm in agreement.
I can definitely, I can see an improvement.
One thing, let me point out, what helps the sound quite a bit. Most people, when they put wall room treatment at the point of first reflection, mount them up on the wall.
Yeah.
What I did, I followed the angle of this waveguide, and I put the
So-
sound absorption much closer than most people would normally do.
Okay.
And I think that helps take the room
Out.
out.
Out
So
of
that
equation.
these beryllium tweeters, which beryllium could be a little sharp sometimes, are not.
No, they're not.
As you-
No, they're not. There's no bite here, okay?
Yeah.
There's absolutely no bite.
And I'm the same on this side. They're very close, and they follow the angle of that waveguide to absorb that first reflection.
Now,
So that's out of the equation.
I mean, I just feel like the system, to be honest with you, I was taken aback by what I heard. It's a very intimate setting, meaning you're doing a lot of near field listening, okay? Closer than I'm used to. But it's quite enjoyable. It really puts you in a bubble of sound. I mean, you hear things happening behind your head. And again, you know, when you look at the speakers, they're not really pointed at your ears. They're really like meeting right behind you, like 2-3 feet behind you, which is what ideally most of us should be doing anyway. But it was a great Houdini act. They just disappeared. Speakers disappeared completely from the room. I couldn't hear the speakers. So that just shows the level of like the amount of work you put in here
Oh, yeah.
to set up, to tune the
Take-
system. It's
Setting
very
up is
nicely
the key. I don't care what quality equipment you have. The setup is the key, and then everything else, you try to get to fall in place. So you want enough power to energize the room. You want quality sound coming from your sources. And that's what I'm saying. The pre-amplifier, if you think about it, in systems that use a pre-amplifier, it's the heart.
Yeah. The biggest highlights that I have though for your system are musicality, no fatigue, engaging, and there is a feeling that you're surrounded by the music. You definitely have done a spectacular job making the listener feel as if they're in a bubble of sound. That is one thing that I'm attracted to with regards to your system. Your system attracts me with this feeling of I'm inside the music and the room is not even here. That's a great feeling that I got from your system.
Thank you.
Other than the bass, to be honest with you, and whatever you decide to do, definitely keep me posted.
Oh,
I want to know
absolutely.
how
Absolutely.
you get to supplement the low registers. But I think you're right there. I've heard a lot of different systems, and I'm telling you, this is one of the better systems I've heard.
Thank you.
And again, yeah, it's a huge investment. There's a lot. I mean, these speakers are like 40 grand MSRP, 42, 40.
48 now.
So it's a lot. It's a huge, you know, healthy investment.
Yeah.
But I can tell you that you're maximizing what I'm hearing here is you've maximized the system with all the components that you've got.
I agree.
And
I
look-
think it's just a matter of tweaks here and there.
That's
to
it. But
maybe
you're
get to
there.
the next level, but the basic foundation of good sound, I believe, is here.
You're there. Yeah, you're there. Absolutely. You're there. So, well, that's all I got, guys. Thank you for your time, for your support, and stay tuned. Right now, I'm going to shoot footage of the other rooms that he has here, smaller rooms that he also enjoys with his significant other. So, I hope you guys have enjoyed this type of content. If you like more, if you want to see more content like this, okay, two things need to happen. Number one, subscribe and hit that like button. Number two, if you live in the South Florida area, south of West Palm Beach, and you want your system showcased on my channel, shoot me an email, okay? jayaudiolab@gmail.com is my website. If you're interested in buying any used audio equipment that I have up for sale, it's always there. It's always listed there, whatever I have available, okay? All right, Mitch, tell us about this system.
It's a little room where I watch sports when my wife kicks me out of the downstairs room. And we've got a pair of Vandersteen 2Cs driven by a Acoustic Sounds USA tube amplifier with a control by the Rotel pre-amplifier. Very simple system, but musicality, it sounds good. If anybody knows the Vandersteens, you know the kind of sound they produce.
Yep.
Good bottom end, decent mid-range, and a decent top end.
Okay, Mitch, we are checking out your home theater. Tell us a little bit about this room.
Yeah, this room is, as you can see, is a fully soundproof room. All the walls are cushioned soundproofing. It's a 5.1 system with Polk speakers with powered subwoofers per side. This is a WeMax LED short throw projector, projecting to a 120-inch screen. The amplification is a Yamaha. This is, I think, 100 watts to side, maybe 120. And it's a fine system. I think for what we have here, it sounds great. And I think the soundproofing is what makes it sound so good. It's not
The
sharp.
whole wall, all these walls are
These all are cushion walls, everything.
cushion walls, right? Throughout.
And they're using even a paint is what they call an acoustic paint. It has
Acoustic paint.
some sound absorption capabilities. I do have an overhead projector, but we don't use it. It's old school. And I find that this the laser projector short throw is much better, much more defined.
Great. Interesting. Maybe I'll try one of those. So, oh, there you have it. We have checked out Mitch's room, and he's been nice enough to let us in his home and obviously share with us his journey and his madness, his hobby, his passion, like many of ours, of course. And hopefully you have enjoyed this content. Again, please subscribe and hit that like button. Thank you again.
Bye, guys.